Hi, it's Mark from PlantNet here. Today I'm going to show you how to prune a young peach tree. This peach tree was planted in November last year, so it's around about the 7-month old. I've decided to prune it to what we call a palmette shape, which the information on palmette pruning can be found on the PlantNet website. But all it basically is one central leader up the centre of the tree and limbs coming off that, which when you look at it, when it's pruned, it actually looks like a palm of a hand. So the first thing to do is to start pruning on your lower limbs. So for instance, this limb down here, that's where we start. We want to make sure it continues at the same angle. So in this limb's case, we'll make a cut there to this little lateral, which has a shoot, dormant shoot, which will come out in spring, and it will continue on the same direction as what we've been pruning it for the last 12 months. Now generally you don't worry too much about fruit in the first 12 months of a tree's life, and basically try and get as much growth into the tree as possible. Some varieties will have quite a bit of flowering and fruiting wood to select from. This variety I've got here has hardly anything. It's just been putting all its energy into growth, which is fine. Some of the fruiting laterals I will actually leave because they have got some flower buds on, and I might get a few pieces of fruit on this tree. So we'll start pruning now. We've made our cut there, which will lead that limb on the same direction as it's been going. All we're doing is cutting these laterals back to make them shoot in the spring. Anything that's down lower, right down in the fork of the tree, comes off. Always make sure when you're making pruning cuts that you make them nice and flush to the tree. Don't leave little stubs sticking out, because that's just an entry for rots to get into, which you don't want. And eventually a lot of the rots that we get in stone fruit trees will kill the tree. Any of this thicker wood, which you'll see me cutting out, which is not part of the main structural limb or part of the shape of the tree, needs to come out when the tree is young. The smaller thickness wood, so pencil thickness and smaller, can actually be just tipped back. And then once again, same as we did on the other side, just pick a bud that's leading out the same direction as the limb's been growing and cut to that outgoing bud so that it keeps growing in that direction. Now with palmette, I've selected the next tier of limbs from the central leader to begin around about the 80 centimetres to a metre from the original one down here. So you can see the second one was started through our growing season, and we want to keep it going the same direction. We usually try and keep the gap between these two limbs the same as we lead both limbs out. So you end up with, around about the 50 to 70 centimetres between limbs at all times. Now we're getting towards the top of the tree. We're still doing the same thing as what we did on the other side. So as you can see now, we've got the two lower limbs heading the same direction as what they always have been as we've been pruning the tree. The next tier of limbs is doing the same thing. So what we want to do, I normally like to stop the tree growing at my full reaching height. So I'm quite a tall person. If you're a bit shorter than me, you can actually stop the tree growing a lot lower. But I'm about 6'2", plus the length of my arm is quite comfortable. So I'll pick my third tier of limbs, 1, 2, 3, at about my reaching height, which is there. remembering to remove all the thicker wood. And then just tip off your smaller laterals, like those. They'll reshoot out of any of the little dormant buds that are along here. Just checking to make sure I haven't missed any. And that's basically what a finished, pruned young tree should look like in the winter time. Nice shape, ready to be able to hold a big crop next year, because this time next year it'll be covered in flower buds that we can choose from for our fruit in Queensland here, which comes in about October, November. I hope that's guided people a little bit on how to prune a young stone fruit tree. Plenty of good information on the PlantNet website also, which might assist you, and good pruning.